just came to Japan and we just got in yesterday. It's yeah, pretty good. Really happy to be back. Um
Yeah,
we spent like three but we did spend like 3 hours waiting in the line in the airport yesterday because there's so many people coming to Japan now. So but other than that, man, it's good.
what is that? Do you think? Just is that just like tourists? Is tourists that kind of thing coming in?
Yeah. Yeah. I think like in the past few years a lot of people have been coming, and also now it's the like the cherry blossoms, they're like blooming around the season, so
Oops.
a lot of people are trying to come for that. So yeah.
That's cool. Well, I'm
Yeah,
glad you're
man.
home. I'm glad you got home safe. Reflections on the time away. Satisfied with with the experience and was there anything that was particularly fun?
About Japan or
No, the tour.
oh about the tour. So we're actually just about to start the Asian tour, but are you
Hmm.
talking about the tour we just finished in the US?
Yes, that's correct. Yes, my apologies. Should have worded that
Okay.
better.
Yeah, no worries. The tour was great. We were with Buenos Aires, Entheos, Axti, and Lost in Separation. Yeah, honestly, being direct support for Buenos Aires is really insane. Considering, I mean, anyone that plays guitar in this genre will know the how influential that band is, especially in like modern metal. So.
Mm.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. It was more of a B market tour, so like smaller cities and towns, which um, unfortunately we don't get to tour a lot on like bigger US tours. So it was actually nice getting in front of our fans that don't usually get to see us.
Yeah.
So I really felt that they were really grateful for like tours being able to go there. So in return we really do feel that energy from them when we play in front of them. So yeah, it was great. Amazing. No complaints.
That's good enough, right? That you had a good time, that it went down well from your perspective, and when you look back at it, it was just a satisfying period, which is fabulous to hear. Oh, because of course, when you tour in America, they're so big, so many places to go, so many people that you need to see. That it never feels like it's enough, really, does it? Do you enjoy? It's probably the wrong word. Do you have a preference for where you like to tour, like Europe, that kind of thing, Asia, America?
Um, they're all a bit different, but
Yeah.
in terms of like the touring lifestyle, I definitely like touring in the US a little more just
Yeah.
because like I like how it's like the roads are really large and like there's always food wherever you go. Whereas like in Europe, you finish a show at like 11 or 12 or something, things don't stay open that late. So you are very limited as to what you can do in terms of food. So everything's a little bit different. When we're touring in Asia, for example, it's every day is a fly-in day and there's more time in between shows, so we can see more things. So it's actually, I feel like it's more of a vacation, whereas, in the States, everything is so regimented and scheduled. You get to the venue, you play the show, you get to the next venue. It's very, like, there are pros to cons to all of
Everything.
these shows. Of course, flying in every day is exhausting, but at the same time, you get time to see things you don't usually get to see in the US. You don't get time to do anything, but it's a routine, it's a schedule, so you get used to it, and it's nice having a routine. Um, but when it comes down to it, I still prefer touring in the US just because of the food options, and I don't know. I guess it's just a preference at that point.
Food, absolutely. Not easy to keep yourself healthy and well on the road like that, though. And obviously, America bigger is better and all that. How do you keep yourself like not just eating junk food on the road in America?
So we like to go to a lot of Mexican restaurants.
Mm.
Mexican restaurants. We go to Chipotle a lot, so
All right.
that's You know, it's basic like Mexican fast food, so to speak, but you know, it's consistent. It's high protein. You get your veg, you get your fiber. So if you do that like pretty consistently throughout the tour, I would say that's pretty clean. And it's
Yeah.
it's not that. I mean, yeah, like you're probably spending like $10 like a day if you order something over there, but it's like trying to create a routine and trying to find places with healthy options. It is
Mm.
hard, but it's not impossible. Um, yeah.
Yeah, routines, I get it. It's super important, particularly when you're touring a country like that and so many different places to go. But routines in music, in music in general, are important because we are at this stage, I mean, a few weeks away from, of course, the release of Animetal and your brand new album. It's out April 11th, 2025, by Sumerian Records. It's a long and winding road to release with a lot of work to be done. So I have to ask you, firstly, how have you been enjoying the build to this release? And what have been some of your favorite things to do outside of the music creation on this build this time around?
I mean, for me personally, this album
Mm.
has been it's it's the most it's I would say it's got the most mainstream appeal in that every song has a clean chorus. It's got clean hooks
Hmm.
and that's something we've never really done where like we've done albums in the past where maybe like half the songs or like a few songs have like
Yeah.
clean vocals or like clean hooks, but they're not really the main focus. On this one, it's very pushed forward. So with every release, it's with every single that's been released, it's really great being able to see um old fans still enjoying it, but also new fans being attracted to this more
Mm.
mainstream style that we got going on. What was that second question? What was that other question you were asking me? What's something
The
outside
build.
of the music that I've been enjoying?
Well, the build. So
The
this
build.
particular build period of, the long and winding road to a release, something you've really been enjoying.
I think something that I'm really enjoying with this build is learning to play the new songs,
Yeah.
um, and especially learning to sing how to play, learning to sing the new songs live. Of
Mm.
course, being in the studio and being at home when I'm tracking these vocals, I'm doing like piece like ideas here and there, and then eventually when I get to the stage, I'm singing the whole thing. So it's different. It's different like vocal techniques
Mm.
being used outside of the studio, and it's like how do I take these lines and sing them in a way that is more applicable live. You know what I mean? Um, Additionally, same goes with guitar. When I write and I track guitars, it's usually by sections.
Hmm.
However, now piecing it all together, it's kind of fun trying to make everything in the studio come to life in a live environment. And also, this is like the first time in our careers that as I said before, the cleans are really pushed. So I'm singing a
Yeah.
lot. Um, so yeah, it's all really exciting. Rehearsing for the live shows has been really fun. So yeah.
Well, of course, obviously, singles have been released. There's been a chance for people to experience several different variations on what you're doing with this album, how you want it to sound, and the differences between now and then. And for the most part, very positive response to pretty much every song released. Of course, there's the odd naysayer, but a majority of people are really excited about the future. And as you said yourself, a lot of new people are coming in, and that's really intriguing. This positive response to the singles overall. Has that gone some ways to help ease your mind as to how the full record might be received?
Um, I mean, I guess yes and no. I mean, it's
Mm.
it's always really nice to be able to hear that the vision that we're having is something that people are taking in and liking.
Yeah.
However, at the end of the day, we are still a band that wants to do what we want to do, and that's still like the ultimate driving factor behind it. So, even if we did have a bunch of naysayers and a bunch of people that were not on board
Yeah.
with what we're doing, which there's a good amount of them. At the end of the day, it's the kind of music that we want to do. It's the kind of music that we all like, and previously, we may have not been able to go in that direction, but now, now that we're fully capable of writing songs like that, like that's what we're gonna go for. So, to answer your question, I think it's a kind of a yes and no situation. But yeah,
A lot of confidence in this record, and just the general response is People are excited, but they're excited to see the vision as much as anything else. This feels important. This feels like a moment in time for you, big moment for you guys. Let's talk vision. So, did you have a clear idea of what you actually wanted to do when you first started working on this record?
So I know we wanted to do something that every song is basically a banger, you know, like
Hmm.
every song has a very catchy hook, very catchy chorus. Like every song needs to be memorable by its own. Um, you know, when we put previously when we were putting together an album, you know, you might have like your heavy songs. These are your heavy
Hmm.
songs, and these are your big songs. And here are even more heavier songs. But now we're kind of envisioning every song as like every song needs to have its big moments. Like, and that's basically the focus, you know, like maybe not every song is heavy. Of course, there are heavy parts within the songs, but it's kind of like instead of breaking the album down like heavy song, big song, soft song, now
Yeah,
everything is just like this song's got to have like this song's gonna stand out, this song's gonna stand out, this song's gonna stand out. So it's kind of like thinking about it in a different way.
hmm,
So that's been really fun to in the build up of this album and then of the writing of this album, and then eventually when everything came together, you know, like each song has its individual vibe.
yep,
You know, then we start thinking about, you know, what kind of lyrics will go well with this, like what story we want to tell with it, and me and Rook, our vocalists, go back
yeah.
and forth in terms of what we want to say and like what these lyrics can mean. Um, yeah, some of the songs have very like very direct lyrics. However, some might have like more abstract lyrics. But at the end of the day, like it's for the listener to decide what
Of
they want
course.
to attach to the meaning of the songs. So yeah, started
Hmm.
out started out with that song, just more of a songwriting approach. And then like as we went down the road, then we started to attach more meaning to things, and then
Hmm.
yeah, pretty
Did you?
pretty streamlined.
Oh, so it was streamlined because obviously that changing thought process and now okay, we want to do this and we want to create music this particular way for this album. That requires a certain level of change, mind adapting to a different way perhaps of doing things today. Did you struggle at the start? Was it quite creatively fulfilling in the early days of the writing?
Actually, I would say in this kind of songwriting where every song just needs to be a hit. For me, it's very fulfilling because
Hmm.
sometimes when I'm writing music, or when we're writing music together, there's like a goal of whether or not this is going to be the heavy song, or like this song is like a trap song, and maybe a big chorus wouldn't work in any of these situations. But you know, I'm a chorus guy. I love
Yeah.
I love my hooks. So when it came down to writing this was the most satisfying because every single one had to have a big hook, had to have a big chorus. So for me, it was I I, I guess it would be I wouldn't say it was easier because I mean
Hmm.
writing something memorable isn't always necessarily easy,
Yeah.
but it was definitely the most satisfying for sure.
It sounds to me like it was you were very comfortable in this place. That while you don't use words like struggle or easy or hard or whatever like that, your creativity was flowing, and this stuff was coming out of you.
Yeah, sure. It was I think maybe each song I'm trying to think about like which song had the most revisions,
Mm,
and I honestly don't when the demo gets put out there hasn't really been any like big picture changes like, oh, this song, the vibe is like totally off, or like we need to totally rearrange it. It's more of like the smaller details, like, oh, maybe the bridge should be like this, maybe the breakdown instead of like a chuggy breakdown, like we should go more riff based with this breakdown, but the big picture will still remain intact.
yeah.
There's still a very cohesive structure to everything. Maybe that's why there hasn't really been any like, massive changes because like everything has been pretty like structurally cohesive,
Mm,
um, to the point where we're not like rearranging like, you know, like I don't know, like C needs to be like an A needs to be like somewhere else, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
everything is pretty much like very it's like we're just making like pop songs almost. Um, but
Y-
yeah, it is. But I will say though, like coming up with the hard part of all of this is
Mm.
coming up with the actual like chorus, like vocal lines, harmonies. So, but that's also like something that we had a lot of fun with. So even though it was difficult
Hmm.
narrowing in on the one we wanted to go with, the whole process was fun, you know, like trying out different harmonies, different melody lines, like how it looks, is it symmetrical, you know, all that stuff when it comes to writing vocal melodies. So
Yep.
that was really fun. Loved it.
It's good that it was fun because that is an incredible amount of work, particularly when you're just experimenting, right? Because I'd imagine there must have been times when you effectively fell down a rabbit hole of extreme experimentation. And while there is no definable genre or thing that, say, within the structure needs to sit within, you do have a sound and it's a recognizable sound and you'll have a style. How experimental did you find yourself getting? And did you have any parts where you just needed to pull back and say, that's too much for us?
Um, well, I don't think we've ever experimented it into things that are so out of there,
Mm.
to the point where we have to say, okay, maybe that's not really our thing. We just haven't come into a situation like that before, but I'm sure like one of these days when someone starts listening to, I don't know, like noise music, maybe that's going to happen. Or if I go down some like deep rabbit hole of like
Yep.
I don't know, like hard style techno or something, maybe eventually when I try to put music like sounds like that into the band sound, maybe that's when we'll draw the line, or maybe not. Maybe we'll love it, you know. Like it kind of depends on the context of the song. And yeah, but for us, like nothing's off the table, man. Like we'll throw like we'll do a K-pop song with a black
Mhm.
metal like bridge, super lo-fi, you know what I mean? Like sounds like it's being recorded with a radio type of vibe, you know. We'll try different things. You know, if it sounds cool to us, it sounds cool. I'm not the one to like set these boundaries on what we can try to do, or like what genre we fall into, you know. For us it's like if the song bangs, it bangs, you know.
And that's all we want. It's what we expect almost from you, which is to do what you want to do, and we'll see what the end result is. You'll either love it, you might hate it, or you might fit in a minute. But either way, it's going to be unique to you specifically. I know a ton of unique moments on this album already. But you mentioned lyrics before, and I kind of want to go back to that a little bit, kind of to see what you were tapping into, particularly when it comes to yourself, tapping into parts of yourself and using the lyrics to speak from the heart. Mainly about comfortability. How comfortable lyric writing? How comfortable was the lyric writing for this album? And what were you tapping into?
So when it comes to lyric writing, me and Rock both have different ways of coming about it.
Yep.
um I'm sure our approaches are quite different, but when it comes to, you know, me writing lyrics for like clean vocals and something like that, um I think I often, number one for me, it's like how I think it sounds, you know, how the
Hmm.
lyrics, how the words that I'm using, how they sound. That's more of my approach. And then when I have something laid down, then maybe I'll think about, you know, okay, what is this? What is this song? What is this? What is the vibe of this song? And then kind of circle back on like what the words, what word choices I had, and then just kind of picking and choosing like which phrases to take out, which to change to kind of match that idea, that vibe of the song.
Mm.
So if it's like a more sad song, like then I'll try to maybe think about it's like I'm mostly just right in terms of how whoever's listening to it, like what they can relate, how they can relate to the music rather
Okay.
than how I like or approach it from like a super personal point of view. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like it's more it's more open-ended rather than
Yes.
something that has to do with my like personal life, you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
even if it was something to do with my personal life, I would still try to make it not as direct, not as, not as like here it is,
Yep.
here's like exactly what happened in my life. Like that, and that's what it is. I find that leaving it more open-ended is more fun for me
Yep.
personally, but also for whoever's listening, maybe like having it more vague, it's easier for them to like associate or like relate to it. So yeah,
Now, I get what you mean because I'm just using one track as an example, but a track like Incomplete and the lyrics on that, for example, are, I mean, incredibly relatable to many different people.
sure. Yeah.
In the studio, what areas did you kind of find yourself challenged personally? And were there any moments where you kind of pushed yourself in a way that even you didn't expect or didn't think you were capable of?
In the studio. So this is my this is my third album now with Within Destruction.
Hmm.
And it's my this is my I guess yeah, so third album on like guitars, right? So
Yeah.
in terms of like guitar playing, nothing has really been too challenging just because the parts
Hmm.
aren't as hard. We're kind of stripping back on the technicalities um, to let other aspects of the music speak for itself. But what was challenging for me personally was performing vocals in the studio,
Yep.
especially clean vocals. Um, in our last album, Lotus, I did have some clean vocals, but there were more layers. You'll notice that in Lotus, the main clean vocals were more pitch screams that Rook
Yep.
was doing, and then my clean vocals would lay either on the same level or like below it to kind of shape the outline of the melody a little more clear. However, on this one, my cleans were much more forward and much more present. So it's challenging when you're hearing your voice so
Yeah.
upfront for the first time, and then it was throughout the build up of the whole album. Um, I basically had to like find what the voice is for me, what voice like what my singing voice was and how I can use that confidently and how was I going to execute that in the studio so that it sounded good, because this is like the first time it's being heard in such a public setting. So for me, that was very difficult. But also like
Mhm.
writing vocal parts, finding my range, like where I feel comfortable in. Um, when you're writing at home,
Yeah.
I'm tracking like these bits and pieces here and there, but then in the studio, you're tracking this one line and you're tracking it a few times. You're doing like a main, you're doing like a background, but same line as the main, but it's just like a texture thing, and you're doing it a few times. And so when you're at home and you're writing these vocal lines and they're high, when
Mm.
you're in the studio, you got to prepare to sing that line of like multiple times. And if they're
Yeah.
really hard, really high, you got to perform. You got to do it. Like but it's like you're also like playing this balancing act because you don't want to blow your voice out.
Of course.
And there's been a few times like maybe in like day one where we're tracking this really hard song. Um, I think Incomplete is a pretty good example of that. And there's a few
Mm.
examples in the album where like either the main is high or the harmony is high, but like you gotta push, but if you blow your voice out, you're like screwed, dude. Like
Yeah.
you you gotta do like the rest of the few days like, somewhat not at 100% anymore because you blew your voice on day one. So
Yeah.
that was very challenging. And having a producer with us in the studio, Federico, who this is our second time working with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, like having someone that's like been around vocalists and tracked vocalists for a long time, knowing when to hit the stop button if there's some strain, like that's man, if I didn't have any guidance like that, I would blow my voice out 100%.
Really.
Um, So yeah, it, now that I'm thinking back on it, like yeah, that was pretty challenging, but um, not so much the parts itself, but it's like the repetitions of
Yeah.
the parts. So yeah, now that I know that, like the next album, it's gonna be much more. I'm gonna know what my physical limitations are, and then I'm going to approach writing knowing what those limitations are, and or figuring out like different techniques, and um that's something that like I'm gonna also get into, trying different techniques so that I know like singing live and singing in the studio like totally different. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's like a few vocal coaches I want to approach in regards to that. So yeah,
Well,
in terms of challenges in the studio, that's it.
it's a big one, but it's
Oh
fascinating as well
yeah,
because clearly you learn so much. You clearly learn so much, and it's an area, well, like all musical ability areas, it's something you can develop and approach in so many unique ways as you learn more going forward. Does that excite you though? The idea of like there's still so much you can do here, so much to explore.
yeah, 100%. And like not even just on, not even just like singing, also like
Mm,
guitar playing, or like songwriting, there's so much more that could be done, and so many other things that could be explored that, now that we wrap up this, like not I guess now that we're starting a new album cycle,
yeah,
like I'm already thinking what we're gonna do for the next
of
album cycle.
course,
It's like it never ends.
of course.
It's a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing and a curse for sure, because as much as I'm excited about the new album that's coming out, I'm also starting to get excited about the next batch of songs that's coming out. But I gotta focus on what we're doing now, So it's like, yeah,
You're an artist. I
blessing
get
and a
it.
curse.
I don't think I've spoken to any artist ever who hasn't immediately wanted to start talking about what's next rather than what's now.
Yeah.
But we do, you say we do focus on this, and yeah, we're almost out of time. So I just want to wrap this up with really this last question: what do you think this album says about Within Destruction?
Um, I think it says we're not afraid of trying
Mm.
new things. We're not afraid of doing the things that we want to do. Um, at the end of the day, we're gonna write songs and do things the way that we want to do and the way that we love to do. So I think that's what it says.
Well said. It is a statement, and it's a very exciting one for the future. Animetal out on the 11th of April by Sumerian Records. Howard, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it.
For sure, Carl. Thank you so much for having me. It was a great time hanging out with you. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. It does help us out. You can find us at gbhbl.com and across all social media platforms. And if you really want to give us a bit of extra support, please consider buying us a cup of coffee over on our coffee page. Thank you.